The January 6th committee is putting together an entire case to show that Donald Trump not only incited, but knew that this riot was going to happen as if he planned it. Look, they're not going to be able to do that. Now, colloquially, we all know what Trump did. He groomed everyone that actually, I would say they groomed him. Donald Trump, he just stuck his foot right on in there in the bedroom shoes of comfort. He did what he had to do to get to be president. Found out he didn't really want to be president. He just wanted to make better sales and increase his name popularity. And he decided that he was going to run and say we had to build a wall. We're going to keep the Middle Eastern people out completely until we can figure out what the hell is going on. He catered to the base's hatred, that xenophobia, that bigotry. And then in the beginning, his crowd during his rallies were beating the hell out of minorities and kicking them out of the rallies. And he was like, yeah, get him out of here. Back in my day, we would have. He didn't complete that. Oh, go ahead. Do what you want to do. I got you covered. If they sue you, I'll protect you. Don't worry. He was doing all of that. He didn't let up. He didn't slow down. There was even a black guy that ran to the stage trying to warn Trump of what the Democrats were going to do to try to mess him up and whatnot. And Trump had him beat down and taken out. Found out what he was going to do, and no apologies, no nothing. No one cared. So the bedroom shoes of comfort, just enjoyed that. Just chilled and walked around, reading the room, which wasn't hard to do, giving them what they want, telling them what they want to hear. And he galvanized every single Republican, especially those that needed to feel vindicated that Cheney, oh my goodness, what's the dude's name? McCain, that's who it is. Brain fart. McCain didn't take the gloves off against Obama. So they had to get vindication over that. Okay, so you've got 4 years of them and Donald Trump just basking in the mental sewage that they are. And just all the filth in there, just enjoying it. So then what happens? Donald Trump breaks full on high school student that's getting in trouble. Man, it's all against me. It's going to be this anyway. Or someone that's about to lose a bet or a game or something. Oh man, it was rigged. It didn't matter anyway. It was all good until they started looking bad. Then it's rigged. Don't worry about it. I'm going to lose and they're going to do what they want to do. It's all good. That's the talk you'll hear. So he pretty much had them like that. I mean, they were already going to be that way anyway. Trump didn't start that technically. Nope, his base started that rhetoric. Just to keep it honest, his base started that rhetoric. Then there's all these signs of if Trump loses, we'll riot. Don't take our democracy. Don't ruin Trump. There were all kinds of signs, slogans, and propaganda out there. And Trump is letting them know that they're going to steal it. You got to stop the steal. You have to. And this is after Trump had removed a lot of the mail services so that people couldn't do mail-in ballots. And primarily removed them from minority communities, neighborhoods and whatnot. Trump did this. Trump kept his own people from being able to vote. Don't even vote. They're gonna screw us out of this. Don't vote. It's a wasted time. Stay home. They're gonna rig it. We're gonna lose. So a lot of his base was like, man, he got a point, man. You don't need to vote when they're gonna just, no matter how many of us vote, they're gonna just take it from us anyway. So they stayed home. And then the mail-in ballots come in and they keep coming and coming and it's gonna happen. It takes a while. So while doing these mail-in ballots, the polls and the numbers, they're going to shift up and down, up and down. And they said, where'd all these votes come from? And since y'all messed up the mailing services, people had to drive outside of their area to mail things. They was doing that. And so it takes a while for these votes to come in. And still, he's telling them, you want to protect your democracy and your freedom, you need to fight like hell. He's been advocating violence since day one. He's been advocating violence the whole time. You're going to get sued for attacking someone. I will certainly cover the bill for that. He's advocated violence. He told them to go out there and fight like hell. He does all of this. Yes. He knows. And as he said, when he was questioned on a couple of occasions about how his audience, his voters, and sort of just go violent on people. And he says, well, some of my voters get excited. The whole, there were good and bad people on both sides. It's like you do realize that your people ran over people. They ran them over. Trying to belittle minorities, they killed some white woman. Think about that. That's what Trump has groomed, allowed, pushed. He literally made sure that this type of mentality stayed on top. Trump even, might I add, and for those that stuck around long enough to hear this, some icing on the cake. Donald Trump was like, during one of his rallies when they're saying 4 more years, he was saying this a year and a half before the election. He goes, I might just get another term. And they're like, yay. He says, you know what? I might stay in. And he wants to test the crowd, test the room. You can see it on his face. I might stay here for maybe 2 or 3 more terms. Pause. Look. Listen. The cheers. Then, yeah. Would y'all want that? I love when he does that because it's funny. Would you want that? And it's like, yeah. On a couple of occasions, maybe 3 at most, does he talk about staying in for 2 or 3 more terms. And one of those, he says, maybe forever. And everyone cheers. So, this has always been in the works. And I don't know if the January 6th committee is ever going to get to this stuff or not. But they're trying to put everything together that says Trump intended on this. This was his plan. And the thing is, no matter what we know colloquially and whatnot of everything that he said, that to us proves this in a court of actual law, you have to prove his intent. That means he has to have had the mindset of, from the beginning or at some juncture before the election, I planned for this particular riot, this particular insurrection. And just to clear up everything, an insurrection isn't when you succeed in taking over. An insurrection isn't about having guns when you have a riot. An insurrection is simplistically the attempt to overthrow a government or some body of power. That's it. Don't have to be government, just some body of power. All right. I was accused of an insurrection. I was trying to tell people to calm down and chill in the video game. Don't do this. Don't do that. Talk it out. Be reasonable. I was accused of an insurrection and kicked out of the server for a while. I'm like, man, if I actually attempted an insurrection, what would they have done then? Honestly, at the time, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I had no idea what an insurrection was. To me, it was just the name of a WWF event at the time. I never looked it up or anything, and they didn't spell it the correct way. So every time I did look it up a few years later, never came up until I decided to look up this one, which is probably about 3 or 4 months ago. So that's when I looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, it's this. And it was very simple. But you got to prove that Donald Trump intended this to happen, that he wanted this to happen. He certainly didn't stop it from happening. He didn't jump out there and lead the charge, but he certainly, you can say certainly, helped bolster a crowd that was already intended on doing it themselves. And with murderous intent. The crowd had murderous intent to kill Mike Pence and or Nancy Pelosi. Murderous intent. They had that. And their jail and prison sentences are so far maxed out. The highest one I've seen is 6 years, but then reduced to 4 and then reduced to 3. To some just not going at all, to some being on community service for 2 or 3 years, or some on probation for a year or 2, stuff like that. Just imagine there are stiffer penalties depending upon your race and or where you live, and certainly skipping all that, certainly how much money you do and or don't have. If you get caught with an ounce of weed on you, you can go to prison. Literally, I have known people that went to prison for 5 and have been threatened to 25 years for an ounce of weed. All right, that's wow. First time misdemeanor. Normally it's a slap on the wrist. No, they get 5 years minimum, and that's it. And they usually get the minimum, luckily. So it's better to invade a capital with harmful, murderous intent. It's better to do that than to just possess in all rhetoric fashion a harmless substance. I'm just think about that. They can't prove that Donald Trump had intent. They're not going to find any video footage, anything that says we need to riot, we need to stop the steal by force, and you all need to go and riot. And you're not going to find that. And since Trump can't be found saying it, since there would be no evidence of that, even though there's plenty of evidence saying that he slowly built this up over time, he can't go to jail, can't go to prison. None of that. None of that's going to happen, and you don't have to worry about it. And I think that is the only true crime, because anyone else, if you get caught with any drug, I don't care if it's, cocaine, meth, weed, I don't care if it's crushed up Adderall or whatever people are doing these days. If you get caught, you are legitimately labeled with intent to distribute. And that's when you're in big trouble. Then they never have to prove it. Never have to prove it in a court of law that you intended to, because you are charged with intent. And since you are charged with intent, that makes it true. Whereas those with lots of money and power and public figure and all of that other stuff, well, you have to actually figure out if you can find all the evidence that would show that there was intent. And that is one of the multi-tiers of this justice system that makes it absolutely unjust.